I don't know if there's anyone angrier in the entire world than Goose Gossage talking about current day baseball. He's the epitome of an old school baseball guy who hates anything and everything that is remotely new about the sport today. He's bashed guys like Mariano Rivera, said Jose Bautista is a disgrace to the game, called Bryce Harper a punk, wants to throw Yankees general manager Brian Cashman in a trash can, wants to punch Rob Manfred in the face, has basically been blackballed by the Yankees, and more. Goose Gossage was an incredible pitcher, a legend, and a Hall of Famer. He was mostly known as a reliever for the New York Yankees and had a pretty memorable career. During the course of his 22-year major league career, Gossage threw over 1,800 innings with a 3.01 ERA and over 1,500 strikeouts, made 9 All-Star teams while winning a World Series championship in 1978 with the Yankees. Gossage loves baseball and still does, except for the fact that he can't stand the game in today's world. Back in 2015, Jose Bautista broke the baseball world when he had one of the most, perhaps the most, iconic bat flips of all time. Gossage wasn't having any of the excitement. There was controversy over Bautista in general, sure, but Gossage may have been the angriest at him, almost as if he was the one who gave up the home run and got bat flipped on. Gossage went on to say that Bautista is an effing disgrace to baseball, that he embarrassed all of the Latin players that came before him, said he acted like a fool, and then he mentioned Yoenis Cespedes, saying he does the same thing. You have to give Gossage at least partial credit, as he did say that he lost his mind there for a minute in a later interview, admitting that he probably got a little too carried away. Like Mariano Rivera, Goose Gossage was a reliever. Although they are similar in that sense, they were relievers in different times from one another. Rivera was more of just a one-inning guy, which is more relevant to the modern-day way of handling relievers by teams. Gossage, on the other hand, wasn't just always used for one inning, with him going multiple a lot of the time. Rivera is known by most as the best reliever or closer in baseball history. Despite this, Gossage does not like being compared to Rivera, arguably the greatest reliever of all time and one of the only unanimous Hall of Famers to exist. In fact, it makes Gossage feel insulted to be compared to him. When asked specifically about Yankees closer Aroldis Chapman, Gossage went on to mention that although guys like him and Mariano are and were great, they were great for only an inning. He then batted down the idea that Mo was brought in the 8th at times, saying that it was just the postseason and that he rarely did it in the regular season. Gossage also has a little something to say to those who believe Mariano Rivera is the greatest reliever ever, saying, quote, "That is BS. Do what I did and we'll compare apples to apples, or Sutter or Rolly Fingers, the guys that set the bar," end quote. Gossage's overall point was that he feels pitchers today are babied and have been turned into wussies who can't go the distance the way he did back in the day. But man, did he go all in on discrediting Mariano Rivera, going as far as to say that he isn't happy the reliever award was named after him. Bryce Harper is known for being really good at baseball, obviously, but also for being a little bit of a hothead at times, sure. But at the end of the day, with 2 MVPs under his belt at this point in his career, he is one of the best in the game, no doubt. So of course Goose Gossage has to despise him. After coming off of his first MVP win in 2015, Gossage went all in on Harper. Harper had recently made some comments on how he feels baseball discourages being unique and having your own personality on the field, and that the game needs some updating in that sense. Gossage responded by saying Bryce Harper doesn't know squat about the game, he disrespects the game, and when later on that same year in 2016 asked about him again, he called Harper a punk. And then just recently, as it seems like it's an annual thing by this point, Goose Gossage came out with plenty more comments that easily made headline news. In a recent sit-down breakfast interview with USA Today Sports, Gossage did not hold back. I mean, considering everything else he has said, that obviously shouldn't come as a shock to anybody. Now, part of this updated rant by Gossage was about Rob Manfred and his serious disdain for him, so most people can actually agree with him on that. Gossage started out by saying he hates that mother effer, referring to Manfred, and explaining something he did to really show how much he absolutely despises the current commissioner of baseball. What Gossage once did was call Jane Forbes Clark, who was the Hall of Fame chairman, and said, and I quote, "Jane, I don't know where you stand with this guy, but I may punch Rob Manfred right in his effing nose and spatter his effing nose all over his effing face right in the lobby of your hotel." End quote. He then talked about how he probably won't even go to this upcoming year's Hall of Fame induction, where however, David Ortiz will be the lone man to get the honor. Gossage isn't going to go because of the whole steroid situation, and that's a whole other conversation to be had, but I'm beginning to think that this man just doesn't like anybody. Gossage used to be a Yankees guest instructor during spring training, but is no longer invited after all the things he has said over the years. He also couldn't be more of an advocate against modern-day analytics, sabermetrics, and the advanced stats teams use today in order to build teams. Yankees general manager Brian Cashman is someone who has embraced this new way of thinking, and Gossage hates him for it. He hates him so much to the point where he wanted to throw him into a trash can. Quote, "I was going to pick him up one day in the clubhouse and throw him headfirst in a trash can. All you would have seen is his feet, and there's nothing he could have done about it." End quote. Gossage doesn't like Al Steinbrenner and believes that he doesn't really care about baseball, and he does have a point there, as it's not uncommon for owners to have no care in the world for their team. Now, whether Steinbrenner does or not is a debate to be had, but nonetheless, Gossage hates Al. As far as the new Yankee Stadium goes, Gossage could not despise it any more than he currently does, swearing to God on his dad's grave that he does not care if he ever steps foot in the stadium again. He's still upset that the old one was torn down, and claims that the new one just isn't the same. It ain't where the boys played, and the new one is just a place for all the corporate mother effers. He has criticized the Yankees front office and ownership so aggressively to the point where the team has banned him from being a guest instructor. And not only that, but he is never invited to go to the Yankees Old Timers Day anymore, a day where the Yankees celebrate all the legends in years past. Gossage was someone who was always there for about 2 decades, but not anymore. Brian Cashman responded to some of Goose's comments when he was first banned from the celebration put on by the team, was saying that nobody wanted him there, including manager at the time Joe Girardi, and that he quote-unquote hung himself. As much as he despises the current people running the organization, Gossage at least admitted that the things he had said left the team no other choice than to ban him. There got to a point in the breakfast interview with USA Today where Gossage picked up a salt shaker and said, "I feel like throwing shit right now," before putting it down and saying that there's nothing funny about his entire tirade. He hates the idea of automatic strike zones, as he thinks umpires do a fabulous job and that it's wrong to want to take the human element out of baseball. This message was endorsed and approved by Angel Hernandez. He's also an advocate for Pete Rose to get unbanned from baseball and be allowed into the Hall of Fame, something a lot of people actually agree with, especially now considering gambling has been embraced by sports as a whole in today's world. Goose Gossage has made one thing clear over the years. Well, 2 things. He absolutely hates the way baseball is now, and he is not afraid to speak his mind, even if it costs him jobs. And oh yeah, well, nobody is safe. Anybody in the world is capable of getting attacked by Goose Gossage. At this point, it's almost an honor if you do. Or maybe it's an honor if you don't. Not sure. But either way, whether you agree with him or not, Goose Gossage is by far the most furious retired player in baseball.